5, 4, 3, 2. I think we are up and running. Welcome everybody to Forming the Shield Wall, a name that I thought of in about 5 minutes. And I obviously didn't mute my actual YouTube. So hold on 1 second. And if you can take over here, Johnny, take over for a moment where I fix this. My wonderful co-host, Johnny, because I got rid of my desktop toolbar here, so I'm going to need to bring that back up, but I am getting reverb like crazy. So introduce yourself and tell everybody what we'll be talking about. Where are you? Where are you, taskbar? Just keep going, Johnny. I can't hear you. I'm fixing this issue.
Am I unmuted now?
Sorry, my apologies. Let's see.
Can you hear me now, everyone in the chat?
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, I had to switch it around, and I don't know if they can hear me or not.
Technology
okay, I'm unmuted
kills,
now.
Man.
All right.
Yeah.
So we got it now.
Can everybody hear us? That's what I want to know. And then if they can, that's good, and everybody can go home.
I went on a good spiel too, man.
What'd you say? What were you talking about, dude?
Well, you know, this upcoming episode of Vikings, episode 18, season 5, Baldur. It's going to be very exciting. We're definitely going to have a single combat from what we're seeing, and
is that confirmed? Is that confirmed? Is first off, two-parter here. Is the single combat confirmed, and is the outcome already revealed?
I think there has been an extensive preview that basically says so.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Did this happen months before the season?
It did. It was this special thing talking about the Black Danes, and whom now seeing the preview don't have black hair and black eyes like they're supposed to, or dark eyes.
I don't think I don't think that's what they are. I think that they're from what part of Scandinavia are they from? They are from
I think it's 3 Swedish King, or is it
they are part of it's Eastern. It's Eastern. Somebody will know. Hey Dog Show, hey Cardinal, hey Bobby, hey Mackenzie Burns. Look forward to talking about the aftermath of this show with you guys for your Berserkers brunch. That's a better name. I think I peaked with Before the Dust Settles with names, and I was like, Forming the Shield Wall. I was like, I already typed it in Adobe. Looks like that's the name. So what we're gonna be doing, guys, is all seriousness. Well, very little seriousness. Sorry. We are going to be recapping from Hell episode 15 to now, roughly. We're not going to be doing details because we don't have that great of memories. But I have been trying to get review videos out and recap videos, and classic TopShelf Fandom and Justin Thomas behavior. I am behind on them. They're like 3 hours long, way too long, and they don't get out. So I thought, hey, want to know what's a good way to force myself to be able to get the information out there? Just do it live. So we're going to go back because I feel that episode 15, and I want your opinion on this, Johnny. I feel like Hell was my heaven for Vikings, and that's the worst pun ever. But it is really the turning point because everything was in this like state of flux. Everybody was in this limbo state, and Hell, even though it took Headman, who whisper yelled better than anybody, but all seriousness, I do like Jonathan Rhys-Meyers besides his poor personal behavior and his poor acting as of now. But how'd you feel about Hell? Did you feel like I felt it was on the level of even Ragnar seasons? I think it was just as good as any episode from season 3 and so forth.
I would agree. It brought me back to feeling like I was watching Vikings again. It seemed like they didn't know what to do with certain characters. There might be 1 or 2 characters they don't seem to know what to do with now, but much better tone, pacing, pick up, political play. Judith, I mean, Judith is back and in action. Gotta love her. It
I wanna.
plus hell. I mean, this was one of the best battles we've seen so far. You want to talk about strategy? I'd say Uba looked at the land and more.
Yeah, he burnt it. Now let's be clear. We both really enjoyed it. If there's any history buffs out there that are waiting to have a go at us, we're quite aware. I did do a short video. It's the total opposite happened at that battle. Well, there was no fire, but the Saxons lost quite quite in a grand fashion, I guess is the way to say. They had a hard few months of fighting, but I think it was really wonderfully done. With the Were you afraid when they first started doing the exposition that it was going to be kind of? Have you ever watched Rome? They didn't have the
Mm.
budget to show a lot of battles, so it was like then we fought, then the line folded, and it's like just like a almost just like a stock photo of a Roman like gladius going into a guy. I thought we were going to get like just like a few snippets of the battle, but I actually thought that the non-linear telling of that battle was actually very effective. And it was much better than the penultimate battle of 5A. I forget the name of the episode, but you know where Ivar is standing up as most people that can't use their legs do and waiting for the arrows to come, and the Franks came. Yeah, you know, like they showed that and they had their individual moments. But how'd you feel about the way in which the battle was portrayed thematically?
Right. It made it completely more intense, non-linear, especially over the funeral of Heckman, which you don't find out. Well, you kind of figure out about halfway through, and it makes it more intense and savage. You can almost feel them there. Uh, it seems like you see a lot of the battle, but they can take shortcuts this way, and it makes it beautifully shot. If you notice, there was a lot of one-on-ones, which everyone wanted to see. We got the famous Lagatha, and you know, I love the line, "Why is the ground burnt?" But
Yeah, oh, really quick. I still cannot figure if he was just pissed, like, you idiot, why are you asking that? We're all obviously fucked. Or he was really like, why is it burnt? Why is it burnt? Trying to figure it out. I note all jokes aside, I'm not sure.
I think he was trying to figure it out. I don't know. He seems smart sometimes, and other times he seems
He's no
completely
Ivar.
daft.
Well, maybe that's why we are counting on your guys' interaction for this. This is going to be a very inclusive experience because we don't really want to have to carry the show. I don't want to do a lot. I was up all night editing. So no, that should be the first one. Do you guys think that King Harold in the Battle of Morton, sorry, which by the way, cool fun fact, pro tip here, Hedman actually died in that battle. Guess who else died in that battle? Athelred. Yeah, they probably should have done that instead of what they did, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, at the Battle of Mortain, and it's hard to say. It should be Martin, but you know, whatever.
And Alfred
Mortain.
was Egbert's brother too, I think, and but never mind. I'm sorry, I'm going off
What
topic
what
there.
what was that?
I believe Alfred was Egbert's brother in reality, and like
Keen Alfred?
Aethelred's uncle.
Well, you have well, no, Athel. You have all the Athels, and then there's Alfred. There was 5 Athels that died before Alfred became king. A lot of his siblings died when. Yeah, no, I don't know, but no, it was a lot of Athels. So it's his brother's Athelred, who I believe, right? Because there's
Mhm,
Athelwulf was the dad, and it's Athelred.
mhm.
Yes, he died at Morton, and but that's where Heckman died as well, and that's the only accounting he had because Hearst went at Wikipedia. But yeah, do you guys think that King Harold was trying to like actually like do like some workshopping in his mind, like why is it burnt, or was he just pissed that meaning like why is it burnt, why is it burnt, you idiots, we're all gonna die? Because I'm still not clear on that. Was he in the know or no? I'm not sure. Because it was still fairly close, right? I mean, it wasn't like a blowout.
Yeah, they did rush to the battlefield after he realized he had been tricked. So it's just very possible he was scatterbrained at that moment, trying to figure out what trap he had been led into. And I don't know, the ground being burnt seems pretty obvious, but adrenaline state of panic, and
It would have been cool if he would have had a brother to like talk to about it. Oh shit, he killed him for absolutely no reason. But yeah, it was interesting. Interesting as well is that what I do like about the little bit that we can take from this historically is not saying Vikings were cowards, but it is a huge misconception that like Vikings were this overwhelming warrior force. They were very good at raiding. They very rarely enjoyed pitched battles. So like the circling them in fire and making them stand and fight a pitched battle, meaning they didn't, do a lightning raid, was not advantageous for them. So that's something I do like that Uba embraced. And even though that's not how that battle went whatsoever, it was a cool depiction of, something. I enjoy this season and last season where we are seeing Saxons not just be incompetent. I talk about this with all shows. It's important to have the people you're rooting for are to establish people as badasses by showing them people of worthy adversaries, not like buffoons that are like, what's a shield wall? It's like, oh, I'm pretty sure they've been doing it since biblical times. But I guess you guys don't know what it is. The Vikings were far superior at naval battles, obviously, and they're very good at getting in and getting out. They, like all people, don't want to die. So they realized that nobody was protecting certain areas. They got to them and got out. They secured their boats and they were able to get to them. If they couldn't get to their boats, they were effed, and the Franks were very good because they had like the equivalent to the tanks. Their mounted men at arms were very efficient on the battlefield, and they were rife with civil war. So everybody had like their attributes. It wasn't just like Vikings were so tough. Like everybody's. It doesn't make sense like that. It's like as long as they can assemble a force, you're gonna have a fight on your hands. And they should be able to assemble more of a force in the invading force definitely shouldn't always be larger than the standing force, even though, we won't get into standing armies, but they're invading that country. They usually aren't going to have as many people. So the numbers should usually be on the people that are being invaded side, at least, if that, holds up.
True. They're still at this point occupied York, and this is the History Channel. They're going a little bit farther past that. At this point in time, too, I think in history, the Vikings are starting to settle down. But Viking, to your point, does come, basically roughly translates to pirate. So that is their strength next to the water. That was the whole thing for, if I'm not mistaken, at the beginning of season 5 when they were talking about leaving York because they weren't close enough to the water. If I'm not mistaken, that's it. And this is where we see the transition of Vikings trying to become more of a settler culture. And I think that's what they're trying to accentuate a little bit here. That's my best guess on that.
No, I think you're right. I think that we're seeing them assimilate because Vikings, just like many cultures of mass migration, I don't know if you could technically consider it mass migration, but a fairly large, injection of Scandinavians to England at this time with the whole warming of the earth and all that, when it was not do or die. It was the cool climate change, not the one we're all going to burn to death. So you have the best way to get your country in order is to have people have stakes. Like Uba now has a reason to fight for England because first off, they gave him all of East Anglia, which is crazy. And I think that's going to establish what you're talking about, Danelaw. But they assimilate fairly quickly, as you see with Bjorn, who's absolutely disgusting, but seems to have intercourse with every woman he comes across. They breed. I'm not trying to be silly about it, but they do. I mean, you breed, you get married, you assimilate. Before you know it, you're all the religion of everybody else that's in your town, because people just want to lived. Like, that's what I loved about Ragnar, is that, you know, in the end, he just did want to be a farmer. And same with Lagertha, and I hope we see that. And I did get a tear in my eye, especially because I'm a sucker for scores. Michael Hirst, it's very adamant about playing a certain score every single time a main protagonist has a moment that is significant. When we got the gift, you heard it, and they did that in the Tudors a lot. You knew when somebody important was going to die because you'd hear that score going. I'm like, damn you, Michael, you playing my emotions. But it was beautiful because Uba has the right idea, right? Look at Bjorn. He doesn't want to go in the church. I'm not saying, not advocating for any religion whatsoever, but it's like, hey, man, get along. Of course he's going to fight for him now. Want to know why? Because even if they're only raiding in Mercia or Wessex, it's not going to be long before they're knocking on East Anglia's door.
Well, this goes back to the whole struggle that we're going to see, and I think it's going to encapsulate the entire final season, is basically not the death of Nordic religion and culture, but the clear diminishing of it. We see the dichotomy between Uba and Bjorn, and to Bjorn's credit, the real Vikings, that's what they did. They were a man and spread their seed, even if they had a wife. But if they weren't pleasing their wife had grounds to divorce them. Uh, it, the, a wife could divorce on a few reasons, but just if she wasn't being sexually satisfied, she could be
What?
divorced.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, she could
No,
divorce him. Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't want to have to try. No, I'm just joking, girls.
Um,
Um,
but you see Bjorn trying to hold on to that culture. You see Uba begrudgingly embracing the culture of Christianity for the future of himself and Tolvi and Bjorn's kids.
yeah.
And go ahead.
No. Continue. I'm
Then
praising that's keep preaching the gospel because you're right on point with that one.
you have Bjorn being dumbed down, but also you have this awesome thing that I think's happening with Vitzerk and the Buddhism angle. And
Mhm.
as we've seen, we know that there's been Buddha carvings found in, if I'm not Sweden, somewhere in the Danish culture in that time. And we know how religion spreads. I think it's just
It's
going to
airborne,
be
I think.
an amalgamation of things coming together to kind of kill what is the religion of the Nordic people.
Yeah,
And yeah, go ahead.
no, I like that. Yeah, I saw that too. It seems like Michael Hirst. I know that he does a lot of a lot of uh, what do they call it? Exhuming of battlefields and all that. Michael Hirst loves the hell out of history, except for when he's doing history stuff. Like that guy, he pays for archaeological digs. And then he goes and makes the show, and he's like, "Fuck history, fuck history, fuck history." That's how I imagine him writing. He's like, "And then this happened, so that's not going to happen." But I do enjoy the embrace, and he what Uba's doing is he's realizing. It's funny how Uba has definitely a better grasp about who Ragnar was, in my opinion, than Bjorn, because Ragnar we see in some interviews that Travis Fimmel did, very laid back dude, smokes a lot of weed.
He's a cool
Cool
dude.
dude. Yeah, he's a cool dude. I don't know if he's gonna work much anymore, but he's a chill out dude. But he definitely wanted to convey Ragnar as an atheist. He had a certain, and I thought that was interesting, and it makes sense because he saw the dualities, the similarities between the Christian religion and his as well. So like Uba has a better understanding. Like you said, Bjorn is trying to stick to like old ways, but it's the idea of this pagan and Viking life. It's not really the reality of it. The reality of it is he wanted land. He wanted a better life for his people. Like Uba is gonna do what it takes to get that, and he's gonna love his family, and that means Bjorn's family too. I mean, because that guy is just pumping out kids and just leaving them consistently. Like he's consistently a terrible person lately. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how I feel about the injection of Buddhism in this. I don't know. It is what it is. I think Buddhism in general is a very cool ideology. It's a very cool belief, but I don't know. I don't know how accurate that would be. Also, it seems a little bit thrusted upon the show. That's just my opinion. And also, it's my belief or my understanding also my belief. I guess I can just get away with anything if I say it like that. But it's my belief. It's my understanding that you can be like a Christian that is Buddhist and so forth. I'm not well versed in that area.
Well, Buddhism doesn't have deities, right? You have basically, well, doesn't have gods. You have people you
Yeah.
look up to, more or less, and it's about everything being one and a whole and all together, and everything is happening at the same time. All is one. All that philosophical shit that we love, and
Sounds a lot like communism.
makes yeah, okay.
No, I
um,
like it.
I do
But
see the thrust thing though, but that we did have Ivar's god statue thrust in our face too. We can talk about that because that a little bit of that does bother me. Freydis and Ivar.
what's that?
Uh, the way he seems to be so easily manipulated mentally by love when we know that he can't necessarily, like a normal man, think with the wrong head.
Hmm.
And he feels like he's never been loved, but his mother coddled him. His a few brothers were very, I mean, he didn't
Nobody,
really get
yeah.
treated bad.
No, there's no evidence of that. Even Vitchek, I totally agree. Vitchek even says that. He says, "I don't remember treating you bad, Iva." You know, like he tells him that. Like, and the mom, yeah, was breastfed until he was like 18, which was whatever. She looks like a deer. But yeah, you're right, and I think that it's time. I've said it time and time again. Ivar needs to stop being talked about as a smart man, and he needs to do something that a smart man would do. Hearst really needs to convey that, and there are some signs because what Freydis, right, sounds like Freya. It's
Mm.
pretty clear she named herself. Am I wrong on that? She was a slave
Freydis
before.
is a goddess too,
No,
or a
I know,
sun.
but it's pretty
Yeah.
clear the girl gave herself a name,
Oh yeah.
and then he's like, "Oh my god, that's like a god's name." It's like pretty sure she named herself, bruh. She doesn't have a family. Pretty sure she named herself. That's pretty like it's not a sign. Like, and then right away goes, I feel like I can trust you more than anything. And he almost its exposition is almost exactly like, but I know I shouldn't, but I will. It's like, no, again, don't. Bad idea. I guess what we have to hold on to, and I'm not really rooting for Ivar, but I think the issue is they're counting on us to root for Ivar, and Ivar is going to be around until the end of the show. That is going to be an additional 20 episodes after this season. Is Ivar ever going to be clever? Like you're saying, why is he being so easily, um, manipulated? So the only hope that I have is actually that bullshit they pulled with Lagatha, because that showed me a semblance of, yes, it has no like integrity, but I don't care about that. But a semblance of like cleverness, right? Because he thought, I'll put on a show for people. That does directly translate to this situation. It's important for him to have an heir. People will not follow you in the battle at this time if you don't have a heir in a lot of cases for multiple reasons. Succession is not guaranteed. Also, they think the gods have cursed you. There's many reasons you need to make sure you have children. Not not in this life, but back then there was many reasons a king
Mm.
would have to produce an heir. So what is he willing to do? It would be very, very nice and a nod to the viewers if he actually was in more control of the situation and willing to be looked like a fool, and even from Vitschek, but then come out and say, I've had this on lock the whole time. But if he is just that delusional, because you're right, who has mistreated him? No one. Nobody has ever mistreated Ivar. He's won everything has been given to him so easily. He walks now. He literally isn't handicapped except for his penis. He literally
Yeah.
just he has no struggle. Everybody loves him. Well, except for now Kattegat, but that's only because he went on a murder spree and declared himself a god. But yeah, I mean, do you think there's a chance that Ivar's playing a long game here?
I hope so, but a few things I've seen have given me pause. He's seems to be buying into this god status, and I think maybe it happened after the battle when he doesn't get hit with arrows. Um, I don't know. It's hard to say because he did some very smart things here. He took the voting out of the people's hands and gave it to a select few of his trusted people that are going to vote on laws and everything now. He also, though, wanted to kill Vitzerk, and he knows he can't kill Vitzerk. That would just cause some strife, right? You kill a son of Ragnar, that sided with you,
He
or
already
he
did
could
it
just
once.
kill him.
He killed Sigurd. We got Ray West in the chat saying Ivar knows and he'll kill it. Ray, I'm with you, but hear me out. I'm with you. My heart's with you, but my brain is saying no. It's saying he is just this guy that Michael Hurst is writing, and he is awesome because he said he's awesome. He does awesome stuff. It's never actually earned. I really think it's going to be detrimental if he gets played for a fool, right? He's going to have to really prove himself. What odds has he overcome? He did the only semi-clever thing I'll give him is going under in the sewers at York. That's the one idea that he's ever had that was clever. Looking at the ground they were fighting on, no credit for that. That's what people do. That's absolutely necessary. Not out of the box thinking. But Mackenzie's got a question really quick. Will Ivar have a fully formed baby, or will it be similar to him? Well, unless you can get pregnant from peeing on people, like Magnus was born, Ivar, that's not going to be his child. That's not evidently how it works. I'm not an expert in that field. Everything's okay with me. But I'm assuming that there's two outcomes of this. He is aware, like Ray is saying, and I hope, and he is going to kill her, keep the kid, utilize the kid, and play off that, or he is going to just have a downward spiral where he is going to, this would be the smart way to write it. If he is believing all this and then he finds out, he has to hit a low point, right? Mm-hmm. He has to join the brothers again. He has to stop being just the worst person ever. He is just the worst. There's nothing good about him.
So this is what I think's gonna happen, and I'll touch back on what you said for just a second with Ivar, and I think he is that much of a sucker right now, because when he first met Freydis, she took off his clothes, told him that his deformity was a gift from the gods, and she's been filling his head with stuff for what, 17 episodes now. So, and to the baby point, I think the baby will be fine. The baby's name is going to be Baldur, which is the name of the next episode. And we know she's going to give birth. She was about to pop last episode, and I think in the previews they show
she was so big. She was weighing at least 90 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, goodness gracious. And I do think the baby's doomed, but I think that the people are going to revolt, or Vitzerk is going to come back and try to take the town. One of the two is going to happen, and she and the baby are going to die. Baldur is one of the gods born of Odin and Frigga, and is the most cherished and beloved baby, and was protected against everything. I feel like we're going to get a sense of that. And this child was killed with mistletoe. Not the child, but the god was killed with mistletoe, and I think there's some connotation to that. Mistletoe being kind of a love type of plant, possibly signifying that the baby will be killed by maybe Vitzerk, or
maybe he was associated. Maybe he was just too lusty. Lust will kill you. Stealing kisses under that mistletoe. So Mackenzie brings back up that she meant like assuming the father role. I know there's no DNA relation. Well, Mackenzie, and I know you're intelligent. I'm saying Michael's almost got me with that whole peeing on people for people making babies. I'm not sure how people are being made by this point. I don't even know how I'm aging. Yesterday I had gray hair, and then the other day I was 15 again. So I don't. Yes, it is. Just for Vikings, Michael Hurst. So she's talking about having some sort of disability and having him assume that father role, and that's actually an interesting. That Mackenzie, I really like that. Like, I think that would be smart writing. So then probably not going to happen. And we're going to talk about stuff we like. We're not going to shit on the show, but Ivar's whole plot line, that is his whole character arc, sorry, not plot line, but his whole character arc has just been garbage. So I just, I think that would be really relevant, and I think that would be some way for him to maybe get a handle on what's going on with him, to have to think about something other than himself with that baby. I think that would be a really nice contrast, but I don't know. I don't know what. Again, I don't. Do you see any other out for Ivar if he is not aware of this, and then he has a baby and he's made the chump? Can that character really carry on? Can they really keep selling that character? Because he is that is their man. He is Michael Hurst Ragnar. He's gonna shove him down your throat like it paid you to do it. You know what I mean? Like, it is not gonna stop. I have to think that he either has to hit a rock bottom, or he has to show a semblance of cleverness. And that's just my opinion. I don't see any other way out of that. I can't see anybody getting on board for him, even the biggest fuckboys, who I refer to him as a fuckboys protagonist, who like awesome tough. They like urine Greyjoys.
Yeah.
Wearing Hot Topic leather, just being a guy that's talking about baiting out queens and being just crude and unrealistic. Like, these are guys that love Rambo and stuff like that. They aren't looking for, too many layers. They're just like, is he awesome? Well, we told you he is. They're like, well, then we like him. I don't know. I think that like Ray West has here, do you think that the men who killed the child's father won't tell Ivar? Of course, one of them will likely have loyalty to Freya, except through Ivar. Yeah, it's very likely. Like, how many people can really stay quiet? But how great of a grasp does Ivar have on Kattegat right now? He has taken over the judicial process. The due process is not really existent there, like you were speaking to, Johnny. So yeah, in all reality, that does seem something that would happen, and that's reminiscent of the early seasons where you had political intrigue and stuff. I don't know though.
Yeah, it
What do you
seems
think?
like Freydis might have more control of the people around Ivar than Ivar does, right? To that point, and I feel like he's going to hit a low. He needs some self-humility. He thinks he's a god, and uh, he's supposed to be the greatest of Ragnar's sons. Yes, he can be a villain. I think he's a great villain, but I think he would could rise into a great anti-hero that we could love if they could write it correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Why? I mean, it's who on TV is we don't have your, classic leading man on TV anymore. They call it you have your goals, you have your motivation, and then you have your consequences, your GMC. The goal is to be the best person. The motivation is to be the best person. So the conflict comes from you being the best, and you got your foil on the other end that just wants to be bad. Ivar's like a foil right now. He's just evil, nothing. He's mistreated everybody. And I think they're right. If Frida's, how is she pronounced?
Freydis.
Freydis, she is definitely got a better hold because she's obviously capable of manipulation. He is just like Ray West said, he has fear. So it comes down to the Machiavelli saying, is it better to be feared or loved?
And she's trying to counsel him against fear, against ruling with fear as well, is something I thought very interesting.
Yeah, I think that, does she want, I guess she would want him to succeed, right?
Right.
But she wants also to maintain control. Why do you think that she advocated for Vitchek? I'm asking you. I don't know. I can't really put my thumb on
Feel
it.
like there's a possibility once the baby's born, she could kill Ivar
Ooh, so you
or
think
try to kill Ivar. That's one possibility that I've been thinking that she's trying to set up. I don't know that it will happen, but I believe, that's what she wants. Once that baby's born, there's the heir. I don't know how far she would have to get before she tried to kill Ivar, but it would make sense because she's setting it up for the power. She's not really for Ivar. She's for herself. Just like we found out with Gunhild. She wants to be queen, which I think they're setting up Bjorn to be a sucker for love, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, I want to hear that. I'm going to play devil's advocate very willingly on that one. But it's interesting, though. Is it really a intelligent move for her to kill off Ivar? Because this kind
Not
of
immediately, no.
I wish it for my viewing pleasure. I wish he would die immediately. I wish he was dead when we opened this episode up tonight. I wish he was just off screen dead. I'd be good, fine with it. But it's interesting, kind of transition to the deal that Bjorn's making with Harold right now, kind of because if he were to be killed by his lover, I'm gonna not keep mispronouncing her name. He would most likely have immediately you would have King Harold in there, right? Because they made their deal. And Bjorn has offered the same deal to Harold. Harold's a fool if he takes that deal because hear me out. He's going to be locked into two deals. If Bjorn dies, then Ivar's still going to hold claim to the deal they have, right?
Mhm.
Like what type of person makes a deal with somebody that is directly betraying the exact same deal as somebody else? Like that's a person that has to know this person's definitely capable of fucking you over too. It's like going out with
Rollo?
somebody that's cheating and they're like, well, it's not going to happen to me, but you know, they're acting like a trash bag to their boyfriend right now or whatever, or vice versa, and you think it's going to be all right for you. You know, it's like this delusional state of, oh, well, they mean it with me. It's like, no, he's just saying yes to whoever's in front of him. It would be a stupid plan if Harold went with Bjorn. Bjorn has done nothing that is in line with Harold. Harold's goal is to be king of Norway. He becomes king of Norway in history. He has been announcing it since he walked in the front door for the first episode. Only person that's ever called him out on that was Aslog right away. She said that means you'd have to be king of my husband's kingdom. And I don't know how he gets away with that. He's just continuously claiming he's going to be the overlord and nobody seems to mind. I don't know how that's okay. But do you think that if she killed Ivar, that she would be able to reign through her son, rule through her son? I don't know. It seems like you'd have
If
other.
if the appointed people that Ivar trusts are fetuses, I think it's possible. I don't know about an immediate killing after the baby's born, but I think it could be something in her ultimate plan. But she might not. She may never get a chance to enact that. Uh, uh, like good points in the chat. He may know and be waiting for the baby to be born to kill her.
We hope. We hope. I mean, let's hope. I want to have a guy that is, bearable. It's literally, it's the only thing that's worse than Ivar's story thread right now. It is freaking Iceland. And the rest is great though. Let's be positive. The Vitchek is great. King Alfred is fantastic, except for the Judith, which we probably should get into a little bit. Especially me, I have a Judith fascination. I think she's just a lovely actress, but I really don't like the way she's been acting. So it's really tough to deal with Ivar's incompetence when we keep hearing about how great he is, and also the focus on Kattegat is weird to me. It's like a little parcel of land that separates Jutland. It's like, why is everybody wanting to go back and get Kattegat? I know it's a trading post, but it's not like if you're in York and you're taking over Ireland and so forth. If I heard somebody in the chat talk about staying true to history, that's kind of a rough word to use with the Vikings. You kind of got to go with the sagas. It's a little bit all over the place. A lot of these people are 100 years apart, and they're usually people that are combined. I don't see them adhering to a lot of it because it seems to be a focus on Kattegat because that's what we know from the first season. But I think they need to have a little bit more faith and understand that the biggest thrill I got was seeing East Anglia be awarded to Ube because that's something that is like substantial. That's something that he really would have wanted. I buy that. I don't think, oh, I want to go get Kattegat. In all fairness, I believe Bjorn is only headed back there because he is literally, not to be negative, but just in a state of limbo until Lagatha dies. Do you think
Yeah.
she's going to die this season or next?
Maybe cliffhanger at the end of this season. Her on her death. I feel like she's going to be used as a cat's paw, or not a cat's paw, as leverage for Alfred. Because Alfred eventually, after he dies, he's credited with uniting
England.
and if for him to attain that goal, he can't allow Uba to keep that land. I feel like there's gonna be some conflict there, possibly
Mm.
a little bit, maybe. I don't think we're gonna keep seeing the Last Kingdom play out here. For no, I'm just kidding. Um, and I think like we said with Kattegat, familiarity, and I think that Bjorn needs to, I guess, he needs to do something. While I feel like they don't know what to do with Bjorn. He should be traveling right now, finding new
Mhm.
places. He should have accidentally stumbled upon Floki, which would have been fantastic. But I don't. They have not set that up at all, so that's never going to happen. I feel like
I,
someone is going to land there, though.
I don't know. I feel
But
like
yeah,
speaking of Rambo earlier, I feel like Floki at this point because I am so proud of myself. I analyzed these shows so much. I hated that thread so much that I didn't learn any of those characters' names. So when people died, I thought it was well done. I liked the conversation Floki was having with a guy I don't know the name of or refuse to learn the names. I believe that Michael Hirst just wanted footage of Iceland, and that's what we got, a whole bunch of scenery being chewed up. But I thought it was, that was well conveyed. But again, it's like a Saw movie. You're like, oh, remember when the white guy got killed in the razor blades? You're not like, remember in Bill, the school teacher? No, you don't know who they are. It's just shocking what happened to them. It's it is, there's no character development here.
you don't think
There
Fluck? Oh, you don't think Fluck is going through a trial to try to become the next seer?
I honestly don't know what he's doing other than waiting to die. He started a cult. That's what what
Yeah,
did he do? He got the most fervent believers of the pagan religion and went to an isolated island with limited resources and said, this is going to be great. Nope. Nope. It's not going to be great on any level. It finally went to hell. I want Floki to go full out, just like killer. I want him to go and just go and get old school around that island and snipe everybody out with throwing axes and stuff like that. And then I want him to go somewhere else unless they're going to tell a story that somebody can give a shit about there. All of that internal, and those were good actors. A lot of those actors are from the Tudors. One of them was a wrestler. The guy is, I think his name was Edge, but
mhm.
he, again, I didn't learn any of their names out of principle, but it was very just, I think it couldn't have been worse. I think they couldn't have done a worse job with that. Everything from the way it felt thematically to the actual dialogue to the stakes being just about people I don't care and didn't even learn their names about. Like, yeah, it was like, man, that was touching when that guy was begging Floki to try to get him not to be killed, and Floki just was just like, "There's nothing you can do. You're gonna die." That was kind of a moment because Floki understood, like that shit was gonna go down. But again, I don't know that dude's name that got killed, so it's like that was a nice moment. Hope Fred's in Valhalla or whatever his name is, but I don't know, man. Like I think that him being a seer is possible, but in all reality, I'd like to see them like do some Eric the Red or start to really uh, explore the island in more of a way that doesn't resemble the Old Testament. I don't know. It's just very dark and just joyless to me. It just is what it is. It doesn't appeal to me. Did you like any aspect of that? Was there any point? Who were you rooting for? I mean, did you wanted Floki to do well, but did you have like any opinion on like a faction? I don't even care.
Okay, so it really pissed me off. I don't mind him taking the settlement there. I did like the introduction when we saw the Valkyrie and everything in the waterfall. That was fantastic. I thought they were going to do something real here instead of
Mhm.
him taking 10 people to the damn island, basically. I know it's probably more than 10 people.
I have no clue.
Uh,
It could be 30, it could be 2.
and why is he so blind to the ways of man? Like, how can man be bad? I thought we were all in peace here. It's the nature of man to be the way they're being, especially in a tight situation, close quarters, no food. Floki didn't see a damn tree while he was there last time, and he had no plan for sustenance. They did not plan this out. I
Well,
I don't
Floki's
like the
definitely
Iceland.
autistic, right? Like, he's definitely autistic. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
there's an issue that he is good. He's going to be thrive in certain areas, but I'm going to argue it's probably not the best organizer for this event because, again, like you said, he just thinks one way and he doesn't understand why other people can't, and he doesn't, absorb information like other people does. He absorbs it sometimes better, but it might not be your best leader for this island that has no resources. And you probably shouldn't get the most devout religious people. My understanding is it was a blood feud. One person killed another family person, and that's all. I was like, okay, I get that. And then they promised not to kill anybody. And then I'm assuming that what I saw last episode was them not living
Romeo
up
and
to that.
Juliet too had an family feuding
Oh,
pregnancy. Then the pregnant girl got killed. She come back as a ghost to see Floki. That was kind of cool when he was.
Don't invoke Shakespeare into this bullshit, Michael
I'm
Hirsch.
telling you, that's what they did, man.
I know. There's a little bit of Hamlet in that. That's some Hamlet, dude.
Yeah, and I don't
that's
know.
Beautiful.
They shit the bed on it, man. They shit the bed on that. I don't know what to say, honestly.
Well, yeah, it's just very. I don't think anybody is enjoying it. Is anybody in the chat enjoying Iceland? Especially because we were all very excited. Like you said, it was like, oh my God, we're going to Iceland. Can you believe it? They're like, yeah, it's going to be the worst. They're like, and we're bringing one of our only remaining like characters that people are in love with, Floki. They're like, we're going to make him the worst too. They're like, oh. So they're like, yeah, it's going to be nothing but bad. But there is positives. Vetshek looks to be finally moving away from Ivar. I do believe that Lagertha is hitting rock bottom. Unfortunately, and I want to hear your opinion on this, I think it's because she's just had it. She lost Hedman, but I don't want that to be the sticking point for her downfall. I really think that was a relationship that was built upon the need for them to have a authentic reason to go to England, meaning they needed to go to England. So she needed to be with him because that's the only way that worked, unless Bjorn dated him, which I'm not ruling out. But that's true. They needed to get to England. There's really no other way for that to happen. I don't know, like Hedman, for a guy that had such conviction for his beliefs, sure didn't stick to any of his beliefs. He flip-flopped more than anybody on the show in the shortest period of time. Everything from his little mentorship with Ivar to then being in love with Lagertha like in one night. You were telling me before the stream that you think that she's going to be trying to convert to Christianity to spend time in heaven. I was getting the idea that, and I'm afraid because I think right, that this might go to the state where it might be like that is going to be her goal. I don't want to see that.
I don't either, but I feel like she saw him die. She's contemplating. We see the last time we see her, she's clearly contemplating something, and she just disappears and doesn't tell anyone where she's going. She would never dare tell Bjorn if she was going to the church. That would kill his spirit. That would destroy Bjorn if he knew his mother was going to convert to Christianity. And we see in the preview, which I think they give us too much of for this show, that Judas finds Lagertha, and I'm assuming it's in the church. Seems like she got a little bit of her hair color back too. But I do think it's going to use her as leverage over Bjorn.
I don't know. I honestly, I don't think that he is going to go down that route because you unify by the exact way. Yes, he gave control of East Anglia to Ube, but Ube is going to be his sword. Ube is going to have a invested stake in the land, and that's how you're going to unify because it's shared goals, it's shared risk, it's shared glory. Everything is, when your ass is on the line, that's how you unify. You can't try to, we have this idea of England right now as it is. He has a vision for that, but that is not something that's natural to these people. So you can't just start off by saying, okay, I'm just going to be your overlord. There's a King of Mercia, King of East Anglia, Wessex is where he ruled from, and he achieved it, but he achieved it through overcoming the Danes. But there was also quite a bit of pretty much adhering to them as well, backing down to them, giving them land. How many Guthrum got York in the north for a large period of time? There was plenty of instances of Alfred just paying them off and allowing them to stay in land. So I don't think that he's going to go to the hostage. I get what you're saying, like, to assure that, nothing's going to happen. But I just think that we're supposed to be rooting for him. And I am rooting for him right now. I think that would be detrimental. And it's not true. And let's be very careful. I know it's on the History Channel. It's not true to history. So I know that doesn't really pertain to them. But that's just not how it worked with him. He definitely knew how to compromise. That's my argument for it. But I think that what you're saying has a lot of validity to it. And Michael Hirst, again, is probably typing away at home. Doesn't have any other writers. He's like, I'll do this myself and just make it all sorts of nonsense. But
I feel like
also
he would know.
It's interesting that Bjorn. Do you really think, one last thing, that Bjorn would be crushed by his mom switching religions? Because it doesn't seem like he has any convictions.
Well,
It's not like he was crushed about Ube.
He was. And acting may not have shown it, but he wouldn't enter the church. I mean, this weird scene about them walking all the way up to the door and then deciding not to enter, but maybe that's just for the scene. He feels like he betrayed everything Ragnar stood for, is how Bjorn feels. That's why I think we're going to have a Bjorn Uba pitted against each other at some point. See some contention there.
I hope not.
If anything happens to Tolvi or the kids, Bjorn would definitely blame Uba. Already, because of what's happened, you accepted his deal. You accepted this. You converted to Christianity. You spat in the face of our father, in Bjorn's eyes, and then you let my wife and children.
And you know how much he cares about being a father when Uba's raising his kids. He's a dirtball, man. Mackenzie, and you brought this up. This is the brainchild of Mackenzie. We didn't know what Judith was doing last episode, but what about her and her sickness? Now, Mackenzie has to the good Mackenzie. And Johnny had breast cancer and he died. Did the titty cancer kill you?
No, I was, for some reason it was lagging. It's probably my internet. But yeah, the whole breast cancer thing Mackenzie brought up, and I think it's a good point. It would exacerbate her action. She would be thinking more in the long term, and she knows she doesn't have long to do it. If she's not going to be there to protect Alfred, then her decision to kill Aethelred makes more sense, even though, the subdermal hematoma heard round the world. I have to say that was tough to watch that head bounce off the table. But I do think it gives her actions more sense behind it, and if she's dying. And yeah, shout out to Mackenzie, because it's very good. It's a very good thought, because
I want to make sure that they're saying we're dropping out. Can you guys hear us? Because I do have a counterpoint to that, because I don't buy into that ever being a good idea, whether she's dying or not. She can't protect the crown by literally destroying everybody on it. She has Aethelred abdicate. Poor decision. This is, I'll just say it once. I've talked about it in some videos. This is the one time History Channel had it handed to him. And let us know if we're having, is it better now with the audio? We'll make sure we're broadcasting. But this is a rarity. It's convenient for them story-wise because it works for your narrative. It's also entertaining. So the thematic, for the history that is now, to go another route. They chose to have Ethelred advocate instead of having his death at the battle in which we just saw. And they chose to have him betray Alfred, but then not follow through. So I thought maybe they're going the Last Kingdom route, and there was supposedly a little bit of a rift between Ethelred's son and Alfred, and there was a contention for the crown, only because the succession actually rightfully could have went to his son because he was king, so the prince goes. But he was deemed to be an unfit ruler and too young, so Alfred got the crown in real life. So I thought, okay, maybe they're going to embody this through Ethelred, right? Because they keep hiring very young people. It seems like they don't hire very anybody over like 20 years old at this point. So it is what it is. But then you have the decision to take Judith, who I thought was a very likable character, have her do something that's not sensible, yell at Alfred about being smart and protecting himself on the throne and making sure he's secure. That's why he had to get married right away, because you got to be secure. It's like, well, you're making me very insecure on the throne because you made my brother advocate, which is obviously going to have some foibles come along with that decision. And then we gave him control of the army, and you're calling me stupid. Then she goes a step further, and as soon as Alfred gets sick and he's already forgiven Ethelred for his like half stepped, half measured betrayal, she kills Ethelred when Alfred is likely, in her mind, likely to be dead, right? Because we know that Alfred the Great in real life was sick throughout his whole life. But at this point, they didn't think he was going to wake up. How is that securing the throne? That is when you want to have your spare and have him ready to go, whether he's being a prick or not. What sense does it make, whether she's sick or not, to kill him at this point? So what was the point of that, other than to make Judith an unlikable character? Am I the only person that thought she was likable before?
Oh, no. But also you got to think about the Athelstan thing, and she sees Athelstan as a god or saint-like figure, and the son of Athelstan is almost Alfred is God on earth to her. So any threat
That's
to
the
him,
favorite, obviously.
yeah. So I think it has a super religious fervor to it as well, because she worshipped Athelstan as along with Egbert.
And Ragnar.
Yeah,
He was everybody's boy toy.
So I think that's the real driving force behind that. I don't know. Not long term for the kingdom is not what I meant. Just long term for Alfred, because that's really all she cares about at this point. It seems like, but I still like her character. I kind of love to hate her here, and maybe we'll find out a little more why her decisions are more irrational. But she's been kind of crazy the whole time. But yeah, I liked her character this whole time. I don't know. That's a tough call.
I really liked her. She took control. She had her little bit of issue with her marriage, obviously, resulting in Alfred. But she, put her ear to the wall and started listening to what she needed to do. That's a bad joke. But what I like show, that's why I'm wondering if she's as likable as I thought, because looking back at her actions, she then blackmailed what's his face, the king, before Aethelwulf. Well, anyways, she slept with the king in order to get her illuminations and training. So she was like breaking boundaries for women at the time, but also whoring herself out. So like I'm looking at that in hindsight and being like, oh, maybe that's not so likable. But my take is that she was living in both worlds. She was understanding the man's world at this time because it was very different. She's also understanding the pagan world for a little bit, and she was becoming enlightened, and she was using her sexuality to get it. It's not a very popular thing to do now, but maybe it is what it is. But I don't know. I think that it doesn't make any sense. No matter how you spin it, Alfred is the favorite, but these decisions put Alfred at risk. All of these decisions put him at risk. Literally, Ethelred saves his life in battle. It hurts, as somebody brought up intelligently in the chat there, that this is an emotional strain on him as well. As soon as he starts emoting whatsoever, she just digs into him. She just takes his manhood away. She sees it as weakness. King Egbert, was his name, who she was having sex
Yep.
with. That was his name. Good for him, because I will admit I think she's quite pretty. It might play into it, but I just don't see the point of it, because why'd you do this with I know every brother in the show has to fight. It's just a Michael Hirsch rule. But I just don't see the point of it, right? Because
The-
you went against everything. You took a
don't
character. It seems like you went out of the way to get rid of a character in a way that didn't adhere to history when it was convenient. Oh well, happens all the time on the show. But also managed to make that pointless, because at least if he would have served the purpose of being the scoundrel or the skeeving, plotting, playing the part of, essentially, if you watch Last Kingdom, you know very well who I'm talking about. That makes a little bit of sense. At least there was a reasoning for this revisionist history, but there's just no point. You ruined one character, and another one ended up dead too. But in good point on that head hit, I thought that was an excellent stunt actor. That
Oh my
definitely was heard around
god.
the world. I think
Uh,
somebody actually died. I'm like, I just watched an actual death.
Everything hinges on Elspeth's pregnancy, right? And also Cuthbert's daughter, Ethelred's wife. She's pregnant as well. So everything kind of hinges on those two pregnancies at this point, because you have no line to speak of right now, correct?
Well, yeah, no, there is no more from their direct line. No, I forget exactly what they were referred to as. They say it all the time in the Last Kingdom. But anyways, but we also have to take into consideration story structure. We have one season after this. Do we really think the children of Alfred the Great? Do we really think that they're going to play a part other than just being present?
I think the
These
mothers
arcs,
will.
yes, the mothers will. I agree with you on that, but I think that this series is likely to end with King Harold, yes, getting Norway, but that resulting in hopefully Bjorn getting some of Sweden like he did. Preferably Ivar becoming like a human being, to be in Kattegat, and I understand more than most actually the importance of just realizing the world which you created, whether or not it's based off of some historical accounts or not. People are very sentimental about Kattegat, and it means something to them. That's where we started our story. So whoever rules that does matter. But also let's venture out and do some things. Let's have Fitch Check go. I know it's kind of, and I talked this about a little bit with the great group Vikings Aftermath. If anybody's here, we were having some great discourse. It's a good Facebook group. They do aftermaths for like Westworld, Game of Thrones. All the Vikings group's really good. We were talking about Vitchek's supposed saga stories, and his son ends up being a royal family member in the Rus, which is now modern day Ukraine and so forth. And they said, well, we wish we would have seen more of the Vikings that went east, because yes, they did, and those are known as Varagians. So Vikings that go west from Scandinavia are Vikings. They go a Viking, and it's a Varagian if you go the other way. But as I was talking to you off air, it seems to be quite the hot topic that I don't know if they'll touch on, because it's, if you are a Russian nationalist, meaning you are not one that's very quick to take a liking to somebody implying that they're Scandinavians that cultivated your society, that had anything to do other than they stopped by for a little bit with some trade, they don't embrace that. They are a Slavic people, and that's what they take pride in. I'm not saying one way's right. I'm just saying it's controversial to show them do what the sagas say they do in some cases. So I don't know if they'll go there. But it's interesting. Like I told you before, I can't wrap my mind around that period in the Baltic states and Ukraine and what is now modern day Russia.
Yeah, that just made me think of something though. I know they can't really touch on that. It's completely taboo. Like any history in China is completely controlled by China. If you can see there are pyramids there that they won't let you uncover. There's ancient structures that they just let stay there, and they say don't exist, but you can see them with satellite. There's all kinds of uh, authoritarian countries tend to want to control their own history for basis of power and control, from what we see in the show a lot too. And I think there are going to be, I think we're going to see some implementation. So, you know how Alfred the Great in real life also wanted to kind of convert the Bible, some books of the Bible, to English so the common man could read them, because the unlearned man was supposedly very dangerous if they couldn't read and write.
Mm-hmm.
And are they going to start assimilating paganism, the pagan traditions, into Christianity to convert Vikings? Do you know what I mean? Like they did in actual history. Do you think they're going to touch that on this show?
Well, I mean, I think that we are definitely seeing. Well, we kind of have seen that with Ube. You know, well, actually, good point, because what's going to happen this episode? He is going to do uh, a a single combat, right? And I think the major point of this is Ube's doing this as a Christian. The Vikings, the Danes, in the Christian, they fought, especially the Danes, they fought with the idea of the Valkyries already know who they're taking, meaning it's a Greek, it's akin to how the Greeks would feel. You know, the gods already know the score of the game. We're going to play it the best we can. So they're not likely to fight for somebody that is not in favor with the gods, right? So Ube needs to lead these, and he is going to fight some Vikings, and this has to be what you just said, has to be going through his head as well, because remember, he was wearing the wristband and said he was going to put it back on, but and Torvi told him to wear the cross too. So he's kind of like, you know, trying to balance. He's on the fence. So this single combat, we have to really make sure not to underestimate the amount of influence that these spiritual beliefs had on these warriors, because they truly felt like that if they fell out of favor with the gods, they were certain to die. So he is putting himself in a single combat against what seems to be a very well skilled warrior, but in this time, skill isn't all that matters. Also, the favor with the gods matters. So how can somebody that has spit on, like, Foki right away would be like, you're dead. You know, remember when Rollo got baptized as a joke, and Rollo just went crazy with an axe on a hill for like 3 hours. He's like, if I killed enough Christians, but it's very important to realize the sentiment behind him putting himself out there, not only to secure power. I think this is really going to help him, because he is going to put himself out there and show them that he is not cursed. But also, this is something that's very, I always talk about this a lot. I'm not a very religious person, but my research on the Crusades and all that, I think a lot of people have a misconception that people have always used religion as like just like this like power, the way to control people and stuff like that. And yes, it's been abused and stuff like that, and won't get into like what's right or wrong. But the point is, especially during this time period, on Sundays, the only place they had to go was mass, and they got to eat and they were warm. That doesn't make their beliefs true, because they felt stronger about them out of necessity or out of fear, but the beliefs were the structure was far stronger. Like the influence that the church had on people and people's spirituality dictated their lives much more, especially in this warrior society. Like we can't just always think it's like, oh well, they were just using that to get, you know, to like Ivar's doing. Like the common man really was afraid of you know, going to hell, or not being in favor with the gods, or, you know, not going on crusade, because then he wasn't going to get his dispensation from the Pope. You know what I mean? Like everybody's like, oh, they just went there so they could murder in the name of God. It's like a lot of them truly felt they were saving their souls. Again, not making a statement on whether that's true or not, just saying it's usually in this time now, it's very progressive. I'm a very progressive person, but we have this idea of it's always been like kind of like a joke or a game. You know, like these people's beliefs were far more prevalent in their lives. And I'm sure there's still people like that. But him going into this battle as a Christian, it is a huge thing. It's a huge thing for his reputation, and it's a huge thing for him personally. You know, I think we really can't underestimate that. I think we always have this mustache twirling cartoon character in our head thinking, I'll use God to control him, you know? And unfortunately, a lot of the popes and stuff do that. But what about all the people that walk their asses to Byzantium from France? You know, I mean, it's like, what do you think about Rollo? Rollo asked to be blessed by Heckman. Heckman did that very snottily, but he was very snotty when he did it. Didn't seem happy, but it seems like he truly is a believer, right?
Well, Rollo got everything he ever wished and hoped for when he became Christian. How could he not? And we have, uh, if Uba wins this one-on-one, he could win a lot of these Danes to his side and his cause of settling. This could lead
Yeah, because
to Alfred wanting to get Uba out of there if more Danes just start piling in. They, they could see it as a threat. I'm not saying Alfred's going to be a bad guy, but I could see some things
I think it's a
happening there. Yeah, I mean, true.
I see what you're
It just,
saying, but it's more. What about the Danes that see the power of Christianity? This is a battle of
yeah,
ideologies. This is even Magnus, old. I was born out of piss. The miraculously conceived Magnus says, nobody will remember Jesus at this. I don't know that this was really a strong belief at this time, but in the show they're definitely conveying that. So when he wins this, sorry they gave it, and I don't consider it a spoiler if the network releases it like 3 months before, but when he wins this, he is going to probably, I would argue, not pull more Danes over as pagans, but possibly convert more Danes to Christianity, because look at what he has got from
yeah.
doing it. Like you said, like look at Rollo, like what he's got. Now you got me thinking that I need to go back to church because that could be true.
Yeah,
Oh
that
shit.
was gonna be my other side of it. It's a great point, and because they will see the power of their God. That's why a few have converted here before. That's another reason I think we could have Bjorn versus Uba uh, near the end if Bjorn ends up living, and it's not a sucker for love because he's only been in love one time in his entire life, which is now, and I don't know. That just seems off to me, and you know. I really think I love Uba's storyline. I love everything he's going for. He is a Viking. He is an awesome warrior, but he has a long-term goal in mind. Whereas I have no idea at this point what the hell Bjorn's thinking. And is he being played by Finehair? Is he playing Finehair, or is Gunhild just playing both of them? That's the big question there. That's the only interesting question there right now.
Yeah, it's true. I tend to believe it seems to be, I don't know, it could be the acting, but he seems to be very there's a lack of sincerity when he's speaking to Harold, especially. And also Harold is in love with that girl because Harold is, a big sweetie. I think that's interesting. I do think back on what you were saying about them converting from, having some of the word of God not being Latin. He did achieve that to a great degree, but we have to remember this is an issue that goes all the way to Henry VIII, and further, with being giving the common man. You have this issue at the English Civil War. This is you have your Puritans that end up, these are people that it goes to Protestants, to Puritans. It starts with, like the converting of the Bible and making it so everybody can have one in their pocket. And people saw it not only as like they didn't feel that they were worthy and that it was actually a sin for a common man that wasn't a whatever a God anointed representative of the church, to read the Bible, but they also did fear it's the idea of how dangerous ideas can be. Like Napoleon was notorious, not to get off subject here, but it does apply. The spread of ideas is like the spread of a plague. Winston Churchill would often refer to communism as a plague, like a literal, bacterial infection that is going around, because you can kill an army of men. But if an idea sparks, you can't kill that idea. That idea lives far longer than any man. So, yeah, they were afraid of what they would do with it. Also, I'm sure a lot of them truly, again, I think it's always important to play devil's advocate and say that probably some of them did see that it was blasphemy, and they truly felt that way. It's not always the mustache twirling, but with that, yeah, it seems like it is more for control. But people didn't, then it gets to the other level. It's like, then there's the stained glass windows are getting broke and they don't want any candles or anything. So it's like this minimalist approach. Not only we're going to read the Bible ourselves, we don't want any like pomp in our mass, which I don't go to church anymore, but I like a show. I'm like a Superdome church guy. I like those guys.
The
I
incense
want I want fire.
burning.
Yeah, I want laser shows. I like my God with a little bit of fanfare. But you know what I mean? Like it's a slippery road. But that is interesting. Like, how are they going to? Mostly the Vikings did, from everything I've done, as far as listening to lectures and a little bit of research, they assimilated fairly quick. And it seems to be
Mhm.
probably more so to do with they wanted to eat and they wanted to have fertile farmland. And it's just easier to stop killing people. Eventually, you meet yourself a dame, you settle down, 23 skidoo, you're married. Um, it's funny that you think Bjorn is. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I would argue that he was in love with Torby at one point
No, that's just
for like a
I'm going
minute.
off what he said in the last episode, was that this is the only time he's thought he's been in love before, but this is the only time he hasn't been able to sleep and can't stop thinking about. I don't know. It's really sappy and weird. It
Oh
was
no, okay.
very out
I
of
don't remember.
character.
No, that's well. Hey, let's give him some desires, even if we don't know what his goals are. I do again believe that he honestly is just stuck in limbo because Lagatha will die this season, in my opinion, and he has to be there for that. So like, he just can't wander too far. That's because remember him with the map of the Mediterranean, and he was like, "This is my destiny," and then he went there. And they had sand sex, and they came back, and then it was all about cat. I really think that we see this is an ensemble. It's not easy to write, and they only have one writer. It's Michael Hirst. Sometimes he nails it, sometimes he does an Ivar, but it's a lot of characters are tied together, so it's like their progression. It's just it's linked, and then when you have somebody that's on the down like Lagatha is, arguably she's in Ragnar's drug years. She is, the right about France time, which was terrible. At least he had some drugs. She's in that mode. Hopefully, she has the redemption arc of that. Lagatha is a great character. I don't think she should continue on to season 6, though. To be honest with you, I don't think there's much left for her to do. And
No, not unless she's gonna become a nun and preach the word to all the pagans that come with Uva and try to convert. No, yeah, she's dying, bro. I agree with you on that. I think Uva's going to play out and become more intertwined in Christian culture, especially after this. Uh, and to your point, Christianity is surrounding them. Other religions are surrounding them. And you can't help but be influenced by things you're surrounded by, even if you don't believe them. Down the line, you get influenced in a couple of generations. You have Christian grandchildren. So it's not far beyond the fact. I really see it going that route. I like, to your point, all of the control of the church. I think we're still going to see a lot of stuff between
mhm.
Alfred and the church. I think that's going to be compelling. We might get a new bad from the church, an actual legitimate bad guy, like being the Pope or something that we haven't seen yet, that I think could be somewhat influential in
No, all popes are
religious matters.
tight. They're all good guys. Yeah, that would be interesting to see Rome come, because that would bring maybe
Bjorn.
Bjorn back to where he should be. I like what you're saying, because it just is. We've spoken about this before with like Westworld. Even atheists, they don't speak about a God. Again, I'm not speaking to any religion, but you're still mostly in Western culture. You're adhering to Judeo Christianity's ethics and morals. All about a name. You are acting you're following the rules of a belief system. You're just not saying, the name of the leader. So you're right. I mean, like, no matter what, whether or not they put the cross on, whether or not they say the little rosary or do any of the ritual, they are not murdering. They're trying to love thy neighbor as much as possible. But yeah, they're living by the standards. You are if you're a part of the community and it doesn't get all Iceland, then you definitely are going to, whether or not you say it or not. That's it's just I always try to put that devil's advocate in there. Again, I'm not even religious. It's just important to not think like I think in my early 20s, I was very much so became an atheist out of nowhere and was like, oh, you're so stupid for believing this. And it's like, I'm pretty sure that these people plunging swords into each other's hearts, that were the peasants, not the lords. Their belief system was pretty strong. So you got to respect that at least. And Alfred has some excess, but I love what you're saying about the clergy because they have power. He's not powerful over them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is a big issue. This is a big issue, not only in what will become England, but I mean that was a big issue in France. They refused to tax the church and the nobles, and they just refused to do it. Every single time they would bring in and somebody to do a reboot of the economy, and you'd be like, okay, you need to start charging taxes to the church and the lords, and then he's like, all right, I'll do it. Then he'd go out at Versailles, whatever, his palace and say, hey, we got to tax you guys now. And they all yelled at him. He came back. He said, you got to go. Eventually they all lost their heads. But yeah, the church has, immunity. They try themselves. The worst punishment a church can give out, even past the time of like Magna Carta and all that, is a fine. If a priest were to murder back then and all that, the worst they would get is a fine. They held their own courts. So they were very strong. That's your whole
you could get excommunicated in severe cases, but that's just like probation. You just get sent away, basically.
You get taken out of the Book of Life, and you get the 3 bells. It's very serious. That's the book that gets you into the after party. Well, that's where you have what's his name? Shakespeare did a play about him, and it was one of the first Plantagenet kings. Bishop of Canterbury, who am I thinking of? But he immediately turns on Henry. Why, Becket, that was one of the things. Becket ended up getting slayed by some of King Henry's knights because he immediately, once he became the archbishop, he found God or whatever, found power, and you can't try him. So yeah, it's an ongoing issue. So thank you, Cardinal Thomas Becket. So Thomas Becket became a martyr, and it's it's always been an issue. They run their own essentially like separate society, but I just love the idea that the person that's supposed to give you marriage advice and like a lot of traditional Christianity is a guy that can't get married. It's like this guy that can't get married will tell you all about getting married. I'm like, pretty sure he's not the right guy for that job. But yeah, that's my only joke on that. But
to all that, the point about the religion and assimilating into Christianity, Mackenzie makes a good point. They do a lot of time jumps. She thinks there's possibly will be a time jump from season 5 to season 6, which I could definitely see, and that could play into the children later. And possibly even Bjorn's children. And if Uba has any, that could play out a little bit. Especially you would see more Vikings assimilated to Christian culture if it did jump that way. And if they do kill Lagatha, it will give time for her hair not to turn some crazy color. So
I think that you go about 40 years would be my estimate. We have to look at where we're at right now. Well, no, I'm being serious because the series needs to end with the establishment of a few, I think, key moments in history, some watershed moments. Your Alfred the Great being known as Alfred the Great, even if it's not the formation of or the beginnings of the formation of England that are implied or not, but you need to see his rule be secure and him because he definitely becomes more powerful than the other kings of the land at the time of Mercia and so forth, and he marries in. But I think we need to see something happen with King Harold, even though I will argue that he is not somebody that Hearst necessarily wants you to root for. You're invested in him, but he's not a son of Ragnar, so he's gonna affect their fate. I see the show ending when we have Bjorn be about 70 years old, if that makes sense, because I think that's a reasonable time jump. I don't see a next generation being
Bjorn does
addressed.
retire in history. He retires and goes and lives out his life after giving up.
Yeah, Uba gets killed when he's 53. Supposedly, it's pretty. I forget how they kill him, but it's not. I remember it not being good. It wasn't a good death. And Vitchek, don't know how long he lives, but if you give these characters 40 some Michael Hurst years, which could range anywhere from like 100 to 200 years, you'd be good. I just don't see the established, like, what I don't see any of the Sons of Ragnar being a focal point, because it's my belief that when we got that crazy time jump, remember when they came back from commercial break and they're like, hey, whole new show.
Yeah.
I believe that was because Michael got the information that he was going to get a number of, seasons that he didn't tend to think he was going to get. Maybe he thought, nobody knows, I'm not in the negotiations, but I tend to believe he thought he was going to get 1 or 2 seasons. They told him he's going to get 4 more. He's like, oh shit, I can tell the Sons of Ragnar now. He's like, I can do that story. So he's like, now I got to age them up really quick. So I actually excuse that, because it's like you have more time to play with now. So he's like, it's like you either gonna jump now or you can't do it. Like, you got to get it done. I don't see, you know what I mean? Because we can't name. They're very casual history enthusiasts that know who Ivar the Boneless is, right?
Yeah.
I can't name any of these people's kids.
No, I think one of Bjorn's kids ended up being a king, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And, if I'm not mistaken, but not really. Nothing to the extent of what is to be a legend,
Yeah.
you know.
Like, look at Rolo's kids. Like, I made a joke in one of my videos. Rolo's real kids did real shit that meant real things that were real cool, but fuck them. Like, you have the future freaking you know, actual succession from England going from a Anglo-Saxon country to being Norman, essentially, because of William the Conqueror, his I believe it's his great grandson. But the point is, he has quite a few very historically prevalent people in his direct line, and we're just not paying attention to them. It's like the idea of a lot of these people were probably not actually Ragnar Hairy Pants or Dirty Pants, Lothbrok's son. It's why they were called Ragnar's son, Ubba Ragnar's son, Harold Ragnar's son, and so forth.
Yeah.
It's because of the
They were all
embodiment of the name. And a lot of these people were 100 years apart from like Ragnar. So Ivar technically, I guess, could have been his son, but I doubt any of them were. I doubt Ragnar was one person. So of course, like the sons of these people are going to be credited with great deeds, but that's because they were the ones that were savvy enough in a position to say that was my dad. I'm the son of Bjorn Ironside. I'm going to take on this name. I just want to see Uhtred, son of Uhtred, with his son Uhtred, and Destiny is everything. That's all I want.
Uhtred the 40th.
I think Ubba is a lot like Uhtred. That's a valid point, but Ubba is a lot better.
It is, yeah. Those steely blue serial killer eyes he stares at you with. He does look so much like Ragnar. It's funny.
Yeah, they casted. That's a one casting they did good. Cardinal, you're right. He does die in England. He dies. They don't know exactly. They think he might have died in a battle, a specific battle, but they're not sure. But yeah, he dies when I know he dies when he's 53. I was just reading about him. But yeah, it's tough because it's, again, when we say history and stuff like that, which we all like, even with the Saxon accounts, who wrote it, when they wrote it, why they wrote it, how many of these are even first person, how many of these are monks that are commissioned and are going to write very biasly, you know what I mean? Alfred the Great's chronicles are very subjective. It's not just histories written by the winners, it's histories written for with an agenda in the first place. So it's tough to really know exactly what's going to happen with anybody as far as like their lineage goes, because I'm not sure that these people aren't a combination. Like you said, even there's a good argument for Ivar being more than one person, and he's fairly well documented within the Saxon accounts.
Yeah, he comes with a couple of different, like Ibar and Ivar. They're not sure if it's the same person, but it seems that way. I believe his bones or his grave is supposedly in Scotland, I think. Gosh, I don't know. I'm getting conflated here. I do know.
But the best way to say that you're confused. Go ahead. Sorry. I just love how you said confused in the most intelligent way. Yeah, that gets you out of being confused. It actually does. It buys you out of it. I love it. Um, didn't he get his land in a very sneaky way in the way that the history is recorded? Like Ivar said he wanted it's some trickery. It's some like no offense, gypsy shit. God, that's offensive. I shouldn't have said that. But yeah, you know guys what I'm saying. It's some weird little trickery that in the tales he says he wants here,
That's some
let
type
me
of
look.
weird deal.
It wasn't legit. I don't think I could do it now, and if I could, I'm gonna try it out. Hold on, let me look at my sources. Wikipedia.
Yeah, I'll throw out kind of what I want to. I'm excited for the episode coming up, Baldur. We're gonna see what's going on in the baby, so we'll find out if it's like Ivar. I do think the baby will be fine. If the baby is deformed, I feel like Ivar will feel like the baby's more blessed, considering how he feels about himself at this point. If he's drinking the Kool-Aid, which I feel like he is, but I kind of hope he realizes at some point every great bad character or good character, like bad guy, needs a downfall. There needs to be some good peaks and valleys in their character arc, in my opinion.
No, definitely. I think they should. It's called being a human being. It's called the human condition. Like that's why George is so successful because he is all about writing about the struggle within. So that's what is a struggle. His struggle is created solely internally, because there's no sign except for that one kid that took the ball away from him when she dove an axe into his head from his wagon. Remember that? There's no evidence of him being mistreated. This is all in his head. He is just caught up in it, which is understandable. I mean, I could empathize with that if I saw some actions that told me he was gonna move in a different way. I can't have success. You cannot be rewarded constantly for just acting like a fool, and then you cannot only not reap the benefits, because sometimes the world is unjust, but I don't want to keep hearing about how smart he is as well. Like, I don't want to have a 4-year-old color a picture and yeah, that's sweet, but I don't want to call it fine art because that makes him feel good. It's just, no, that's not the truth. That picture sucks. I go to schools all the time and judge their hallways. I'm like, shit. But no, yeah, you get what I mean? He needs to earn the praise.
Yeah, he hasn't did anything, to your point, to make us think that he's smart, besides what happened at York. And as well, to your point, he's just created a cult around himself. He's consumed by power and the lust for power. He's making up for his insecurities. Whether or not he's really embraced his insecurities, we will see. I think that can kind of be the real test for Ivar. And if he does have a deformed child, I think that could put it to the test, whether he's really fully accepted himself as a person. Because it seems like he's still trying to find himself, honestly, by taking all of this advice from Freydis. So I think they could go a few great directions with this. Of course, it's going to be awesome to see Ubba fight. I don't know if we'll see Bjorn, but we're going to find out what the hell happened to Lagatha and what's on her mind. And she's probably just been praying for about a month. So,
well, who better to find her when you're having a mental breakdown? Who better to find you than the recently batshit crazy Judith? It's like, oh, thank God you're here, you mad woman. You got 2 mad women in some hut. Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying, though. I mean, obviously, we need to see just a little bit of reflection from Ivar. I think that he's definitely not secure and he's causing his own problems, but those have to have a consequence. There's no point in conveying faults if you're going to do nothing but reward, unless that's the story you're telling. But then again, you're going to have like an outcome of that payoff that makes sense as well. And this happens a lot. You can dig deep with characters. It's referred to sometimes as a Mary Sue or something like that, and no matter what they do, it's great. Even Jon Snow to a point breaks a lot of rules, and it always still ends up working out for him. But at least, like there's like some actual like self reflection, and he's aware, self-awareness, and there's the actual yearning to do good, not just be powerful. If you just want to conquer the world and you go about it by any means necessary and you sit around and feel bad for yourself, I don't empathize with that character. You don't have to agree with them. You just have to understand where they're coming from. I can understand with this disability to a point, but I do want to point out that he is walking around. I do want to point out that right after York, he seemed to have all these warriors around him. And if your best idea is that time you decided to go in the sewers, you're not going to be known as the most clever man in the world. Yeah, it was clever for the moment, but oh, that's the guy that went in the sewers. He's a genius. And like we were talking about earlier, in the Saxon accounts, which are pretty biased towards the Danes, he's praised for his tactical genius. His situational awareness in the battlefield and so forth. So just show a little bit of that. But it is what it is. I think that you know they should embrace people like Ube. I think Ube is like, I could watch a whole show about him right now. He's down the right path, but he's in a good area. They got him. It's like that's what happens when you have this ensemble. Lagertha is at this stagger. So Bjorn's like, what do I do? Do I just be gross more and have sex with everybody so nobody's sure they're all my kids? Take care of them. So it's like he can't move on until she goes somewhere. But Uba was in a good spot, right? Because he got there and he had a goal. And he was able to, be motivated by his goal. And then it caused conflict, just like it tends to do in stories. What was his goal? To get some land. What was his motivation? Because it was his father's land and wanted to achieve that. What conflict did it cause? Had to convert to Christianity. Also, actual physical conflict. Now, what's his conflict? Maintaining the land. What's his desire? To keep the land. So that motivates him to do it. You know what I mean? These are things that they're very simple, but it's like, what's Ivar's goal? To just, be the ruler of Kattegat and just make everybody believe that he is a sexual dynamo. What's his motivation to do that? Because he doesn't feel so good about himself. And the way he goes about his actions are not clever, but they pay off for him. It's not a payoff for us. Like, well, it was a payoff with Uba, right? And this should be a payoff tonight. Looking forward to it. When Alfred goes to that battle and gives that speech and learns from Uba, even though that training montage was lame, I don't know how much I'd learn about fighting when somebody just threw axes at me. I'd be like, please stop. I'd like to learn some things about fighting. But the point is, we saw somebody make they compromised. They got off their pedestal. He's a king that knows how to rule because he's willing to follow others for a little bit, and he's willing to live up to his word, but he wants them to have to risk just as much as he does. And he, like, look at this. He is leaving his manly, the need to be the warrior. Or he mentioned, I'll lead the troops again. And Uba tells him that's not going to do it. That's not going to inspire them. You need to give it to me. That's, that takes away from your that has to hurt when it comes to Alfred. He is already sickly. Like Ivar and Alfred are very similar, and they've alluded to they will have their chess match again. Alfred the Great was very sick for his whole life. He had to sit on a pillow because of his sore bum. I know it's kind of funny to say, but I mean, the guy was like, had just like nonstop dysentery and stuff all the freaking time. He was very ill and feeble, and he still managed to go out there and fight. So what if we just had him achieving all that the Alfred the Great in history did, but all he did is sit around like Ivar, and he didn't do what we're seeing him do. Like Ivar would never go and ask somebody to help him, right? No,
he has too much pride for that. That's why we saw him drag himself around for a few seasons. Yeah, I know you want to say something about that, but yeah,
it looks silly.
It's two opposing approaches to the same situation, basically. And Alfred handles it with grace, and right now Ivar's handling it like a savage. Like I said, I think Ivar needs to find a little more of his mental ground, but mental. That was a Freudianism right there. Middle ground, because his mental state is completely too jacked up. and he can't seem to see the forest for the trees. So, and maybe they're just leading us to think he's being blind right now, and he's been playing Freydis this whole time, but it does not seem that way to me. It seems like we have
Yeah.
all these people coming together being a sucker for love at the same damn time. Other than that, I'm really happy with what's going on in the show.
Yeah,
But
after Hell, it's taken a turn because we're out of the limbo for most characters, except for Bjorn. Now we do have a goal, a desire to take Kattegat, so we have the conflict that he's going to have to face, along with aligning himself with King Harold, who is, like pretty much going from Viking to Viking right now. But I like what you said about the Freudism as well there, because hey, who better for Freud to take a look at it than Ivar, the guy that breastfed? And I mean, I would never let Freud, if I was alive there in that time, don't let him be your therapist. He's gonna be like, that guy wants to have sex with his mom. I'm like, dude, you said that about everybody. And so he's like, well, okay, so your son's depressed, and he wants to bone you. It's like, no, I don't. He's like, everybody wants to bone their mom, bro. So no, but that's is very relevant to him. And yeah, you're right. He can't see beyond the trees. It's probably because he's in that little cart. But yeah, I agree. I think that the best way for him to be shot down, to be taken off his pedestal, is probably not going to happen from any way other than him being defeated maybe at the end of this season by the look. We have a lot of forces that are dead set against getting that little piece of land between Jutland, Kattegat, the Empire of Kattegat, with the capital of Kattegat, that has that great little small town of Kattegat in it, where you're a king, but there's a lot of people going for that trading post.
I don't think Vitzer will give Ivar death.
No,
Ivar
no.
living through the downfall of his little fiefdom is that's gonna be the punishment. And Ivar rising from that's getting us a time jump, would be apropos for that. He could rise back from that and have his chess match with Alfred, because people will rally behind him, especially because he's still going to have a few fervent supporters. And we've seen people with just a few supporters. He is a son of Ragnar, and there are many Vikings everywhere. Björn, Uba, and Vitzer don't have control of all of them.
No.
So there's plenty of air and opportunity for him if his little kingdom, happy little utopia, Ivaropia, falls. So
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, it's just not in Vitchek's personality to go after him. I think it's been really clear that Vitchek is a very patient person. I guess the Buddhism does make sense with him, but even before that, I mean, he's kind of sticks to his guns. He jumped ship quite literally. I thought that was a nice little move where he literally jumped ship. The reasoning, it is whatever, but he was seeking glory and he's sticking by his decision. But yeah, you have a lot of people converging on there, and I think that it's almost more humiliating for Ivar to not, don't give him a warrior's death. And the only way that he is going to build himself into somebody of any substance in the show is if he fails, because he's going to have to then actually have a struggle, because he is not I'll make the argument any day and debate anybody any day that he has not done anything of worth. He has, yes, achieved this kingdom of Kattegat. He's won at York. He was successful in England, but who wasn't successful during that time with that heathen army? What happens when he's in the grind? What happened? Uba's in the grind right now. He got East Anglia, but look, now he's in some single combat. And he doesn't know if the gods are already got his death, warrant signed. So, let's see him really grind it out. He's been handed a power, and he's given a mantle, so he needs to get knocked off it. And if he climbs back on it, it'll be something that's intriguing. We can empathize with him because we can say, hey, we've all been cocky. We've all made mistakes and acted like a fool. That has never declared myself a god, except for that one time. But hey, it's all you got to do. So yeah, I think that I'm excited for tonight because we're going to see what happens with the child, and that'll be a very good indication and a good thing for us to talk about. I'll plug the Nooners. What is it? Berserker brunch.
Berserker brunch. That's right.
Yeah. Is there going to be food served?
Sure, if you bring some for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Some liver and fava beans.
Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to jump to. I might not go. No, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. If you guys are not subscribed to Johnny Be Crazy, make sure to do so. He is a up and comer. Hey, what are you at right now? You at just under 5?
420s. Yeah, 420 something. Not sure exactly. Try not to look at it too much. But yeah, man.
Yeah, there you go. Keeping it up, man. By the time Thrones comes, you'll be at that sweet 1K, and then you'll yearn for 2K, and then once you get that, you'll be just as sad, if not sadder, and you'll slip slowly into the depression that is content creation. So,
Yeah, I'll
now
chase that dragon.
that's all it's about, baby. Always want that. I want one of those buttons. So, yeah, thank you to everybody that came by. Living My Rep City, The Dog Show, Mackenzie Burns, Cardinal Doomsday, one of my great Patreon supporters and great friend. I am happy because they said I could be an Australian. And all jokes aside, I have really wanted to go to Australia ever since I was young. That's like my dream. I think I would do well in Australia. Australia. I think that what's been holding me back so much is not being there. So, I'm gonna do a GoFundMe. Get me there. I'll buck some kangaroos. No, I really would. It looks beautiful. Yeah, so no, great supporter and great friend, Johnny. Always a pleasure to have you on. I look forward to tomorrow. I think it's going to be a fun show. Needless to say, I'm going to watch the show and enjoy it. So I'm doing that. And are you doing any True Detective, brother? I know that you.
I'm watching it. Should talk about it. If you're gonna do something, I'd glad to come on and talk about it with you. I've got like 4 shows going on right now, so
go fund me to buy some phone. Phantom D Saint. You want to know what? You're a real piece of work, buddy. I don't. What time is it? The nerve of this guy at 8:47 to come on. This guy's an issue. There's jokes and then there's real pieces of work, and that's what you are, Phantom D Saint, who's actually a really good guy. But yeah, you had a real problem with your dolls. So whatever. Hope those dolls make you sleep good at night. You got them in a dirty way. Made a G today. Got in a dirty way. Sorry, I was listening to the rap.
My hairline brother.
Yeah, no, he's a good man. I meet very few. So yeah, Phantom D Saint also, he reacts and he has insight. So I enjoy it. Yeah, no, True Detective. I'm thinking about a stupid name for a stream for that, like Cracking the Case or something dumb. Again, I think I peaked out with Before the Dust Settles. That was my best idea. But yeah, I don't know. I'm enjoying the hell out of it, man. It's
good so far.
Yeah, season 2 is so hard to beat, right? Man, Vince Vaughn was so good.
This reminds me of more of a season 1 feel so far.
Absolutely.
I really dig it.
I hated season 2. Hated it.
Didn't even watch all of it, man. I didn't even watch all of it.
Nope, it's like Iceland storyline. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Again, subscribe. If you're not a Patreon of mine, you need to get in on that. That's a really good deal for me. So make sure to do it. No, it really does help. I am trying to get to at least $50. The goal is 75 by Game of Thrones. I almost always get to 50, and that's my programs are at $75 a month right now. My Adobe. Please don't make me go back to Pinnacle. And I always fall short. I feel like people know I'm gonna get there, and then they back off. So don't be afraid. Help me out. It really does mean a lot, and I try to do as much as I can for the Patreons. And I'm just happy that anybody's there to support. Also, if you are looking for a content creator that will definitely do videos on something you ask them to do, I do it because I actually enjoy the collaboration. Actually, Black Mirror. That came from my Patreons, and that's like a blessing. I never would have watched at least 2 to 3 shows. Expanse and Black Mirror are 2 shows I wouldn't have watched if it wasn't for my Patreons. They got the same palette I got. They know what I like. I know what they like, and I enjoy it. It's good. So it truly is a collaboration process. I'm not going to lie and say you get like all this swag and stuff. I don't know if you want a bunch of stuff that says TopShelf Fandom. I know I don't. So, I mean, I try to do what I can. I appreciate it. So make sure to support creativity. I want to thank Johnny again for coming on, and we will try to do this again next week. We'll see. We'll see how the internet takes it, and I look forward to it. So we only got 3 more episodes.
Yeah, 3 more episodes, and then we'll have 20 more for one more season. I think they have 3 offshoots for this. So
yeah, I saw
don't know
that.
what the hell that's gonna be.
Neither did I. Yeah. And real quick, Phantom D Saint. So if I sign up for Patreon, would you watch some anime? No, I don't want to get on a sex offenders list. So no, thank you.
Oh, and thank you for having me on, my friend. Before I
You're
forget to say it.
welcome. Yeah, I didn't think you were gonna say it, and you're very welcome. You're very well. Yeah, that's right of you. Just no. It's a pleasure to have you on, man. You're the go-to guy. You know your thing. Oh yeah, Cardinal bought. She lives in Australia, or he lives in Australia, and they found a how much Teespring costs for shipping in Australia. I tried to get it canceled. It's way too much money. Just don't do it. It's a lot. I believe they paid like over $20 for a coffee mug, but the coffee mug's funny. It says not coffee. So if you're at work, people think you're drinking booze. So your boss will think it's hilarious. Or if you're with a client, I do it on my webcam for meetings. I'm always drinking out of mine, and there is booze in there. So it's really funny. No, there was people requesting the "It's better in the books," said every book reader ever shirt. I did make sure that's up, but Teespring is a hell of a thing. I try to make the prices as low as possible, but it is coffee. BBM. Yeah, you're a real piece of work. You would drink coffee. We got to go now. We can't be associated with you. I won't get any Patreons. So thank you guys again. Thank you, Johnny. And thank you for inviting me. Is it on your channel tomorrow, right? I'll link it.
Yes, my channel tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern.
There we go. All right. I'll bring some iced tea. You bring whatever fancy people eat at brunch. So I gave them the wrong address at Teespring, Justin. Yeah. Whatever. All right. Thank you guys.